Welcome to Bitcoins and Gravy, episode 26.
Today, on this very episode, Bitcoins are trading at $620 per Bitcoin. That's 62 cents per millibit, folks. And then you might be asking yourselves, what is LTB coin trading at? Well, let's jump over to the LTB coin widget on the bitcoinsandgravy.com website. The melodic.com widget reports that LTB coin is trading at 0.0037 US dollars. That's 37% of the way to a penny, and it's also 50% more than LTB coin was trading at only just last week. And thanks to Joe from joelooney.org for building the LTB coin widget.
Now that's gravy. Welcome to Bitcoins and Gravy, and thanks for joining us today as we podcast from East Nashville, Tennessee. I'm John Barrett.
And I'm Lyd Shaw.
We're two Bitcoin enthusiasts who love to talk about Bitcoins.
And share what we learn with you, the listener. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for listening to Bitcoins and Gravy.
On today's show, we take the Bitcoins and Gravy magic bus out west once again, and this time to the Bay Area, where we meet up with Bitcoin's own singer-songwriter, Tatiana Moroz. Tatiana fills us in on all that she's been doing since we last spoke with her at the Texas Bitcoin Conference earlier this year, and man, oh man, has she been busy. Lots of traveling, lots of concerts, her new position with Bitcoin Magazine, and drum roll please, the TatianaCoin.
Nice, I like it. We also take you down to Mexico, south of the border, amigo, to speak with Hannah Kim and Thomas Alvarez of CoinCove.co. Hannah and Thomas have created a new trading platform in Mexico that will allow locals there to purchase and sell Bitcoin, as well as bringing Bitcoin and banking to the unbanked millions in Mexico. They go on to talk to us about the importance of remittance and some of the challenges that they have faced, as well as some of the successes.
Today on the show, Lyd and I are very pleased to welcome Tatiana Moroz, singer-songwriter extraordinaire and writer of the Bitcoin song. Tatiana, welcome to the show.
Hey guys, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you back, Tatiana. There's been a lot of exciting stuff since the last time we talked to you.
Absolutely.
We saw you in Texas at the Texas Bitcoin Conference. That's the last time I saw you, I think. So that's been a while. And obviously you've been super busy, and we've got a ton of things to talk about.
You have gone on to create something that is a real milestone in the Bitcoin world, in the blockchain world, and in the music world. You are the first creator of an artist coin, of your very own coin.
TatianaCoin.
Indeed. I was approached by Adam Levine a few months back, and he sort of introduced the idea to me, and people have been suggesting TatianaCoin to me basically since February. And around March, me and Adam linked back up, and we actually created the first ever artist cryptocurrency. I worked with Ryan and Lisa from Distributed Buzz, and we did it on Counterparty. And then Coin Powers kind of put it out there for us. They're like an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter. And I was their very first coin that they ever launched. But since then, they've been growing exponentially as well. And we launched it back in June. It took us a few months to coordinate everything. It was definitely not the easiest project, but luckily I had an amazing team helping me. And so then we launched TatianaCoin. And now anybody who wants to kind of participate in my career and wants to support my efforts can go to TatianaCoin.com and follow the link to Coin Powers. And at Coin Powers, they can get their very own Tatiana token. And they can use the TatianaCoin in my store, which we're still kind of developing. But basically, some of the prizes include anything from an advanced copy of the new album when I put it out there. They can go out to dinner. We can do a Skype interview. So, they can even have me write them a song. They can sponsor my tour. There's all sorts of ways that I can participate with my fan base. And I think it's better than an Indiegogo or a Kickstarter because now they have a vested interest in seeing you succeed. And they're sort of with you for life. And I love that. I love the instant feedback that I get. It gives me a closer bond with my fans. And of course, it allows me to do what I do best, which is create.
That's great. So talk to us a little bit about the feedback you've gotten so far.
I wasn't sure how people were going to react to it, but I have to say it's been overwhelmingly positive. At first, we tried this varying price scale model that some people really liked, where basically we'd give out 100,000 coins a day. And based on the volume of trading, people would get a different amount. So if it was a slow day, they would be incentivized to donate. But if it was a busy day, then they would get a little bit less coin. That sort of worked for the more savvy type of, I guess, investor, for lack of a better term. But, my regular fan base, they just want to donate and help me out. So that was a little bit complicated. So that fixed model is something that allows me to do this over a longer period of time. While I do have a lot of fans in the Bitcoin space, I have a lot of fans outside the Bitcoin space. And I look at this as a teaching opportunity in order to get them into crypto. And that takes a little bit longer. And so we took the timeline off of it. And now it's just a fixed model, and we're making improvements all the time.
Okay, so I feel like I need to rewind us a little bit here. For somebody who's listening and this is all brand new, tell us what is TatianaCoin? What is a coin? What does somebody do from the first step? What's the very first thing they do?
Well, the first step is that they have a Bitcoin. Once they have Bitcoin, they can buy in, and it's just another cryptocurrency. It's a meta coin. So you've got Bitcoin, which has Counterparty built on top of that, and Counterparty allows people to make these meta coins. So basically, people send money to the address and they get back Tatiana coins. And then when they want to trade them in, they're going to send them back to me and I'm going to give them their prize. Or later on down the road, if I'm more famous, then the price of them will go up and then they can sell them to people, peer to peer, just like they would sell Bitcoin.
Okay, and that's when you talk about a fan base having a vested interest, that's what you're talking about. For example, if they buy Tatiana coins, that is contributing Bitcoin to your coffers, your ability as an artist to have capital to work with. And now they have these Tatiana coins. They can use them now to buy prizes, records, fan swag at your website if they want to, or even to hire you to come and play a gig. But then if they hold on to some of the Tatiana coin, then as it goes up in value, that's where the vested interest is, right?
And how does it go up in value over time?
The same way that a baseball card would go up in value. So as I become more popular, since there's a fixed amount of coin, there's a bigger demand for them. And then as far as purchasing the items, the point of the campaign is to raise money for my third album. So I suppose people could buy my old albums with the Tatiana coins, but the purpose of raising the funds was for that third record. And I guess, though, for the house concerts and some of the other prizes, they are available. We didn't even start issuing them until, I don't know, today or tomorrow, something like that. I've been on tour nonstop for months and months, and everything is blurring together. But I'm going to go up to Adam's house in Napa, visit him and Crystal this week, and we're going to figure out exactly how we're going to administer it. But it should be pretty straightforward. And the first batch was just issued a week or so ago, and now the second batches are going to start being issued as we go along.
So for our listeners, to reiterate what you just said, Tatiana is joining us on a 20-minute window of a car ride from a giant breakfast meeting to a train ride that she's got to take. So that's how busy you are. You're clearly going and going and going since the day we met you in Texas till now. So
I've been going since June of 20. I don't know. I've basically haven't been home for longer than 3 weeks in about 2 years.
Wow. So tell us some of the things since we've talked with you in Texas. Tell us some of what you've done in that time from then until now.
I did TatianaCoin. I just played the National Libertarian Party convention in Columbus. I played at Pork Fest. Where else have I been playing? I was just at Freedom Fest in Las Vegas. And I joined Bitcoin Magazine as their new sales director.
Wow.
That's right. I saw that. The beginning of Queen Tatiana's reign, right?
Oh my God. I thought that was such a funny article. When I created the Queen Tatiana handle, I kind of did it as a joke, but for some reason it's stuck. And I hope that people don't think I'm a total vain jerk, but there is something very funny about it because people will be like Queen Tatiana and it's just, I don't know, it cracks me up.
Nicely done. Nicely done.
And what are you going to be doing there at Bitcoin Magazine?
I'm going to be their new sales director. So I'm doing a lot of outreach. I'm widening our subscription base. One of the things I'm really excited about is we're going to start doing video advertising spots for people. So anything from actually saying, hey, everybody should check out Bitcoins and Gravy, blah, blah, blah. Or it could be something, as I'm going around and traveling, to bring a video crew with me and do more product placement. So it would be more of a lifestyle type video and with a subliminal message about whatever company we're talking about. And we'll also do interviews with the founders of different Bitcoin companies. So I think that might be an interesting way to get the word out about new startups and already established Bitcoin companies in the space.
Nice.
We particularly like the idea of helping to support new startups here at Bitcoins and Gravy, so we applaud that.
Yeah, and I am actually a subscriber of the Bitcoin magazine. I have been for, I don't know, 8 or 9 months now. I love getting the magazine. And, I used to read them cover to cover. Now I just leave them in the plastic and file them when I get them because, I think they're going to be worth something someday.
Yeah, they're beautiful magazines. And I think we're going to be I know we're making a lot of really big improvements to them. We want to kind of decentralize the cover art process. We're also doing something fun for, back to school Bitcoin issue. We're going to have students competing for submitting their artwork and also their articles. A lot of cool issues coming out. We're going to do something on 3D printing. Nice. Steve from CryptoKit actually printed me the only TatianaCoin in existence on his 3D printer. Nice. So since I saw that, I'm excited about 3D.
That's cool. Now it sounds like you're walking now.
Yeah, now we're at the breakfast spot, but I'm just hanging out in front, getting a little tan while we chat, so we're good.
Where are you now? What city?
I'm in Palo Alto, and then tonight I have a show at 20 Mission in San Francisco, and then I have the Silicon Valley meetup on Tuesday at Plug and Play. Wednesday and Thursday I'll be at Coin Congress. I'm performing both days, I think, during the lunch hour, and then the following week I'm going to be doing I don't know if it's a panel or a talk, but I know that Catherine Nicholson will be there and a bunch of other cool ladies at 20 Mission. I think that's the 29th. It's a Tuesday.
Very cool. Very cool.
Nice.
Well, hey, do you mind if I jump back to TatianaCoin for just a moment here?
Sure.
I feel like I still want to ask some more questions about that. For example, when you are issuing the coin, I think you mentioned issuing 100,000 at a week or something like that. Was that right?
No, we're not doing that anymore.
Okay.
That's not. No. We switched over to like a fixed model where each coin is like a nickel, basically.
Okay, each coin is a nickel. So if you buy a coin, you buy it for a nickel, and then you can use the coin later to purchase items from you. I want to keep re-explaining this because I think some of our listeners might come to this from a musical background and not really understand cryptocurrencies yet. So maybe you can explain to them a little bit more about how something goes up in value or what's the connection between investing in an artist. For example, I think that in the music world, we're all familiar with the concept of Kickstarters, and bands and artists are very interested in finding creative ways to raise funding so that they can create the record. But reaching out to the fan base and explaining to the fan base why it is an important investment beyond just simply being an alternative way to give money to an artist.
To me, it's pretty straightforward. If there's a fixed amount of something and there's a higher demand for it, then it's going to go up in value. So if I have a much larger fan base in a year, since the original purchasers of TatianaCoin, they want to see me do better, right? So they're going to tell all of their friends. And now more people are going to want the TatianaCoins, so they're going to go up in value. Just like with, I like the baseball card example.
Okay, yeah.
So, there's only a certain amount of baseball cards. And if that player does really well, then more people want those baseball cards and they're more valuable. So I guess that would be the way that I would explain it.
Okay, that makes sense. So a year from now or 2 years from now, if somebody wants to get TatianaCoin, they're going to have to buy it from somebody who bought it 2 years earlier for a nickel, and now it's worth more when they purchase. Is that the way it works?
Yes, or when people are trading them in with me, I will raise the price at that point to reflect the market. It is the first one, so we're going to see how it goes.
So I was going to ask, what do you see for the future of music? Is this process, these coins for artists, is it something that could be repeated by other bands and other solo artists?
Well, I've given that quite a bit of thought when we were creating the coin in the first place. And what I'd like to do is create the first ever crypto record label. About a year ago, I started this video series called One Shot, One Takes. And what we would do is, I had a beautiful recording studio in New York where I was working, but the rooms would sit empty. So what I started to do is bring in artists that I thought were really great, and I'd give them one shot, one take, none of this, auto-tune, 20 different layers of music, just a raw performance. And, we would create a video for them, and then they would hopefully promote the studio to their friends. We would bring in a different engineer and producer every time, so we'd be exposing the studio to new clients and new potential engineers. And we'd also be teaching the staff how to get better at their craft. A lot of these interns are stuck cleaning toilets. That's not very inspiring. Their parents or they didn't go into debt trying to pay for music school only to be a toilet cleaner or work for less than minimum wage. So I thought that by creating this program at the studio, I would be able to be making this kind of fun vibe and an innovative way to bring in new talent into the studio. But what I found out was that in order to put out compilation CDs of these artists, I would need to sign them and have a record label. So I started developing a business plan for taking a standard recording studio model and incorporating a video production division, a label, a publishing company. And I think that that would be a much better use of the space. Recording studios, I'm sure you guys know, have not exactly been doing really great lately. But I think for a little bit more money, you can be creating a lot more opportunities for profit for the studio. And I think that if you incorporate the crypto angle to it, that's a great way to get the audience to participate, to vote, and then create subsequent coins for the artists that get the most votes. And if I videotaped all of that and I made it into sort of a reality show, I think that would be a wonderful teaching tool to get people exposed to cryptocurrencies and decentralized autonomous corporation kind of mentality in an easier to accept way than just trying to explain it to them. If they're seeing it visually, if they're kind of learning with like a fun way, you know, they're seeing their favorite bands, they're voting for whoever they think is the most talented, and not in a cheesy American Idol way, but more in a real way. I think that that would be a great, I guess, evangelization tool for Bitcoin and cryptocurrency.
Absolutely. Wow. Okay, so shout out to listeners, musicians, recording studio owners. Are you listening? That is the Queen talking right now. Right. And she is laying it down for you. It's some brilliant ideas, and it might be, you know, the key to the future of the music business.
I absolutely think that it can be. You know, the challenge with new artists utilizing a coin is that they don't really have, first of all, it was a pain. It was really like not that easy to make it. Granted, the first one is always going to be the most difficult, but there are a lot of considerations. And I don't think that they'll necessarily be able to exploit the technology as well as somebody who already has experience with it. So, you know, an artist, they want to focus on being an artist. When I was doing the coin, it was pretty stressful, even though I had an incredible team and I already had some working knowledge of Bitcoin. I don't know. We'll see. I think it's going to be a really exciting ride, and I'm sure that Adam and I will talk about it more this week. And then I wanted to be sure that you guys, that the audience knows that I'm going to be seeing you guys in Nashville in a month.
That's right.
Yes, I'm going to be performing at Night of Clarity, which Bob Murphy invited me to. Bob Murphy's going to be there, Tom Woods, and a bunch of folks. But on the 21st, August 21st, we're going to set up some sort of a show and a talk, and we're going to team up with Liberty.me, Liberty on the Rocks, and the local meetup groups. And then you guys should be popping by, hanging out, and playing Ode to Satoshi.
Yeah,
I'm going to try a third-part harmony on there.
Sounds
I'm
like
just going
fun.
to wing it.
Sounds like fun.
I think so.
Right.
That's exciting.
That is exciting. That's great.
We're excited about having you come to Nashville and seeing you here, and we're glad that you are able to fit our small hollow into your schedule there.
Yeah.
Oh,
Nice.
I'm excited about it.
Tatiana, thanks so much for joining us on Bitcoins and Gravy today. We want to let you get to your breakfast. I know you haven't even eaten this morning, so thank you for being here.
I have such a long day ahead of me. I need some hot tea.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us today, for taking time out of your schedule.
Yeah. Can you let our listeners know how they can find you, how they can learn more about TatianaCoin, and, you know, how they can start their own coin one day?
Sure. They can go to TatianaMoroz.com. They can go to TatianaCoin.com. They could purchase the coins at CoinPowers.com. They could follow me on Twitter, Queen Tatiana, and they could see different videos and stuff of me on Forevermore Tatiana, which is the YouTube channel. And of course, I'm on Facebook.
Did you hear that, Snoop Dogg? That's for you. Come on, get on the train.
Nice. That's great. Good stuff, Tatiana. Thank you so much.
Very cool. Thanks so much for having me on, guys.
Okay, thanks, Tatiana. We'll talk to you soon. We can't wait to see you in a few weeks.
Yeah, we'll see you soon.
I know. It'll be fun. Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye. I'm John Barrett.
And I'm Lid Shaw.
We're two guys from East Nashville, Tennessee who love talking about Bitcoin. Join us for Bitcoins and Gravy right here as we talk with business owners around the country and around the world who are using Bitcoins right now to grow their businesses.
We interview Bitcoin experts about cutting-edge developments, the future of Bitcoin the currency, and Bitcoin the shared network. We also talk with everyday folks who use Bitcoins instead of money for everyday purchases.
And if you're still not sure about Bitcoins, we can help. Bitcoins and and Gravy will get you up to speed with this new fast-paced technology, Bitcoin. We invite you, the listener, to call us on the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline at 615-208-5198 with your questions or comments about Bitcoin.
And remember to tune in right here for Bitcoins and Gravy.
Now that's gravy.
Bitcoins and Gravy is part of the LTB network, and they have just introduced a new listener rewards program called Magic Words. At some point, we'll tell you, the listener, the magic word for each episode. Then you will visit letstalkbitcoin.com, log into your free account, and on your dashboard, you'll see where to type the magic words. So it doesn't matter how you listen, on SoundCloud, on your phone, on an airplane, or even out fishing in your boat. Just remember the magic words and make sure to turn them in at letstalkbitcoin.com for your listening credit, which is worth about as much as reading 5 articles on the site. Each word is only good for 4 days, so don't get too far behind. And if you haven't already hooked up your account to receive your LTB coin rewards, visit counterwallet.co to make your own wallet. Take one of the addresses it gives you and enter it on your letstalkbitcoin.com profile, where it asks for an LTB coin compatible address. Oh, and one more thing. Don't tell anybody else the magic word who didn't listen, because the more people who claim their listener credit, the less LTB coin each will receive. So tell people about the show, but keep the magic words for first-hand listeners only. So that's how it works. Keep listening, and at the end of this episode, we'll let you know what the magic word for today is.
So today on the show, Lidge and I are interviewing Hannah Kim and Tomas Alvarez with Cove.
Yeah, welcome to Bitcoins and Gravy, both of you. Tell us where you are.
Well, first of all, thank you for having us. We are based right now in Puerto Vallarta, which is a beach town in Mexico.
Well, that sounds nice. How's your weather there?
It's really great. It's a little bit too hot sometimes, but we're in the middle of rainy season, so it balances out half and half.
Yeah. Well, it's hot here in Nashville too, but we don't have an ocean.
So you get the hotness without the benefit of being next to the beach.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah. Pretty much it's just hot, and then it's hot after that here.
But we've got hoses, and we've got a few lakes and mosquitoes.
And occasionally we just interview people in exotic beachfront places, and that helps.
That's right. We live vicariously through you. We imagine that we're there. We're going to imagine that we're there with you, Puerto Vallarta in Mexico. Here we go, Cove. This is exciting. Yeah,
so tell us about Cove.
So we are the first Mexican exchange. We are a fixed rate exchange, and we also provide a wallet service. And we set out to make it easy for people to buy and sell Bitcoins, which before us was really a very difficult process to go through. And so people can deposit at convenience stores. It's a convenience store chain called OXXO, which is the equivalent of 7-Eleven, but with a more dense layout. So there's around 10,000 in Mexico. And we also take bank transfers and deposit at banks, cash deposits at banks.
Okay, and then I noticed you mentioned 7-Eleven. Am I correct in remembering that 7-Eleven has already been accepting Bitcoin as payment in Mexico?
It's not directly that they take Bitcoins. There's a provider here that you can link your Coinbase account, and then they convert your Bitcoins to Mexican pesos, and then you can use that balance to buy at 7-Elevens.
I see.
Very cool. Very cool. So Cove is something that you can use to either buy or sell Bitcoin. Is that what you said?
Yeah, exactly that.
Okay. So if somebody in Mexico has Bitcoin, how does it work? How would they use Cove, or how would Cove help them make a purchase somewhere, for example?
Well, so right now we buy and sell. So if someone has Bitcoins, they deposit it into their Cove wallet, and then they can just go in and sell them with a click of a button. We deposit or we transfer pesos to their bank accounts, and then they can do whatever they want with the pesos. We are working on integrating payment services. That is actually what we have been working on for the last month and a half. So we want to make it easy for people to actually spend those Bitcoins directly without having to go through the process of converting them to pesos and then using them.
I just wanted to add to that and just to give a little bit of an overview of where Mexico is at in terms of the Bitcoin infrastructure. Mexico is still at a very early stage in the adoption curve, and it's nothing like it is in the US right now. Primarily, the people that are buying and selling Bitcoins are the early adopters. We want it to become more mainstream, but prior to our service being introduced in Mexico, there were no other Bitcoin exchanges other than local Bitcoins, which was the only way of getting Bitcoins in Mexico. So you can imagine that the rest of the infrastructure is pretty underdeveloped in terms of accepting Bitcoin payments and merchant processing and things like that. So it's really a great opportunity for us to step in and to be at that early stage where we're growing the infrastructure.
Now, what kind of regulations, banking regulations and federal regulations there in Mexico did you all have to go through in order to be doing business there?
That's a very good question. And the reason why we're here in Mexico, we set out in the US, but then we hit a brick wall with all the regulations. So we looked into Mexico and then moved here. And we have already engaged with some representatives of the Bank of Mexico. And so what they're doing right now is that they don't want to regulate it as a financial instrument. So they're saying it's a digital asset. So it's being treated as a digital car, let's say, just like Texas. And so we're not allowed to be a financial institution. We can't. So right now we are operating as a normal business. It would be like the equivalent
Software
of
business.
software business. And the only thing that they advised us was to be very mindful of money laundering. So we're following the guidelines that the Bank of Mexico has for exchange houses, which is depending on the amount of dollars that you're buying or selling, you have to ask for different kinds of information from your customers.
I see. So know your customers, the KYC regulations in Mexico. It sounds like they're not quite as stringent or strict as here in the United States. And also, it sounds to me like overall, it's easier to open a business like a Bitcoin exchange there in Mexico because you're not considered by the Mexican government or by the banking system there in Mexico to be a money transmitter. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
That's fascinating. So while Mexico may have been slower to take up Bitcoin and adopt it, it turns out that it may be an easier place to actually get started with it.
That sounds like to me also, you mentioned those little places like 7-Eleven. Walk us through that. Let's say somebody wants to buy Bitcoin or they want to sell Bitcoin. How do they use those stores? Tell me the name of those stores again, the chain.
Primarily, people are depositing in OXXO. It's OXXO, and it's basically the most ubiquitous convenience store chain that you'll find in Mexico. You basically walk 5 minutes and you'll pass 3 of them. So it's at the doorstep of every single person.
So I take my pesos and I walk into OXXO and I want to buy some Bitcoin.
Right. Prior to that step, since OXXO does not know explicitly that they are helping out a Bitcoin service, what happens is that in OXXO, you can pay for a lot of different things in Mexico. You could pay your bills, you can pay your utilities, and we are going through a payment processor that allows us to collect payments in OXXO. What it means for our users is that they would go on CoinCove and express that they want to buy, let's say, 200 pesos worth of Bitcoins. So they would need to print out a slip or take a reference number to the store and deposit to our account. And that gets credited instantaneously, which allows them to then go on our site and then buy Bitcoins within a second.
I see.
Well, that's very cool. If they have Bitcoins and they want to convert it to Mexican pesos, for example, then as you said, they would have a bank account linked to CoinCove and they would be able to transfer the pesos to their bank account. Is that how that works?
It's not linked as the connotation is in the US where you link your bank account. We don't have that system in Mexico. So what we do is that they convert their Bitcoins to pesos, and then several times a day we do a batch processing of the transactions. So then everybody gets their money sent. The difference in Mexico is that a bank-to-bank transfer only takes 5 minutes because we don't have that many banks as in the US. When we send money to someone, the moment we send the transaction, they get it 5 minutes later. The same thing when they send money to us through a bank transfer, we get it 5 minutes after they hit the send button.
Okay, wow, that is fast. And now for somebody living in Mexico, for the Mexican population, is it easy or hard to get a bank account for everybody?
It used to be very difficult. Actually, only around 35% of Mexicans have bank accounts. But recently, they've started to do these programs, mainly with OXXO, where you have these like mobile bank accounts that you essentially they convert the convenience store into your bank branch. And so they have these cards that act like a full-fledged bank account, but you only deal with a convenience store. It's backed by a big bank. And the government's also doing these cards where the money that they give to poor families as a monthly aid, they're distributing through these virtual bank accounts, also backed by another bank. There's been a huge surge of people becoming banked in the last year and a half in Mexico.
Wow. So by using the OXXO platform, is CoinCove able to convert Bitcoin to the OXXO bank card?
Yes, we are. These cards come with the 16 digits, and the banking system, our bank, allows us to transfer money to those cards.
Okay, Hannah, I thought maybe I cut you off, so please go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to add that it's not so much that it's difficult to get a bank account for a person in Mexico, but it's rather that people in Mexico have not felt the need to get, a lot of people have not felt the need to get bank accounts yet or to be in the financial system, like officially. So a lot of people do not have bank accounts, but for our users who are primarily the people with internet access, with computers, the early adopters, they, of course, tend to have bank accounts. So it coincides nicely right now. What we are trying to do for the future, however, is target the population that is unbanked because we think that's where Bitcoin's potential really lies. But that's like our next step.
Yeah, well, like you explained just now, the largest population wasn't banked and didn't seem to find a need for it. Can you explain a little bit more about that? How does somebody go about not needing a bank down in Mexico?
Well, Mexico is really interesting in the sense that it's a very cash-based society. Even people who have credit cards, people who have bank accounts, which are under 30% of the population, still prefer to go to stores and pay for their bills or pay for other things in cash. So it's just a matter of comfort level, I believe. I'm not incredibly familiar with the Mexican financial scene to comment on that. Maybe Tomas can add to that.
This is a problem that's, it's not a problem. It's a situation that's prevalent in Latin America, is that a lot of people don't trust their banks. So having a number in a paper slip doesn't mean anything, because before, many Latin Americans have debased their currencies, or from one day to another, you don't have any money in the bank because the bank went belly up and we didn't have the equivalent of that they bail you out. Yeah.
So, I think of Mexico, I've been there only once, to a very rough little town many years ago with a friend of mine I worked with in Berkeley. So I got to see how most of the people in Mexico really live. The people in that town were farmers who farmed sugarcane. They cut sugarcane every day, and at that time they were making about an average of $8 a day. Hot work in the sun. I was there in May. It almost killed me. But anyway, I did not cut any sugarcane. But I think of Mexico and a lot of other places, a lot of other countries, the people have this healthy distrust of authority, healthy distrust of banking systems. What they also have is they have more of a cash on the barrelhead mentality about money. If you don't have the money, you don't spend the money, because that's the way that you were raised. If you have a little bit of extra money, what do? You don't go out and buy something and do something silly, right? You save it. So that's something that here in the United States, we have generations now that have been trained. Don't save money. It's not about saving. It's about spending. We're no longer considered citizens here. We're considered consumers. That's what we're called. When the news talks about Americans, they talk about consumers, right? Because that's what we're supposed to be doing, is consuming. So I see us as now having become a society that buys all the time. Favorite pastime here, shopping, right? And which is ridiculous. And then also this inability or complete inexperience with saving anything at all. And I like to think that, Mexico and the way that the people think, the way that they're more family oriented in Mexico, I like to think that maybe they're kind of how the United States was back in 1920 or 1930. And my fear is that there would be this drive like we see in other countries for people to want to be more like Americans. And I would just like to make a shout out to anybody there in Mexico who speaks English, who understands what I'm saying, to say, don't do it. Don't become like us. Keep your family strong. Keep saving. Don't have it as your goal to go out and shopping. You want to have a good time, hang out with people you love, right?
Exactly.
You're exactly right. What you mentioned is, I used to work it was a social enterprise where we will bring solar panels to very poor communities. And it relied on credit. So they would pay 100 pesos every month. And then at the end of 2 years, they own the solar panel in the system. And the judges from the tournament that we entered with this business model said, you're never going to get repaid. So in Mexico City and the other big cities, people behave more like the US, where they spend on credit more than they can actually afford. But in these towns, our payment rate was 95%, because people take very seriously that a loan is a loan and you have to pay it back. And if they can get away with not getting a loan, they don't get the loan. They rather not do with whatever is that the loan is going to be used for.
It's called integrity.
You know, here in the U.S., I mean, when I talk about people saving their money, I mean, why would you save your dollars? They're not going to be worth as much tomorrow.
Yeah, there's no incentive here now, or so it seems, but still saving is so important. And even when it comes to Bitcoin and digital currencies, there's the big talk about hoarding. Anybody who holds onto their Bitcoins, you're hoarding. Don't hoard your Bitcoins. Well, no, it's saving. You know, you're saving and you're hoping that the value goes up because it's a deflationary currency. So, hey, back to CoinCove. The magic word is such a word as indeed has never been heard. And now, today, the magic word. The magic word for today is
transmogrify. No, I'm just kidding. It's China. The magic word is China.
So
back to Bitcoin.
Yeah, back to Bitcoin and CoinCove. So how about remittances, money coming into Mexico or leaving Mexico?
Well, can I interject? Can I follow your question?
Please do.
Or reinforce that question? We've asked this for quite a while on Bitcoins and Gravy, and with the people around here we've been talking about is the possibility of Bitcoin being used as a form of remittance payment. You know, we know there's a long tradition of Mexican Americans who are here who will send remittance payments back to Mexico, and that's a very important ecosystem. But the question has always been, would Bitcoin open a certain door for people to be able to do it? And the answer that we usually got was, well, I don't think that people in Mexico are going to know what to do with it. They might not trust it. They don't have anywhere to use it. Why would they want to do that? And it sounds like CoinCove may have opened the door to this possibility now.
Yeah, and the other difficulty of, okay, send Bitcoin back to Mexico, but how do you turn that into pesos, into something that people can actually use? And then here's CoinCove.
Right. I mean, we could go on for days talking about remittance. That's where we initially started out setting out our goal to do was remittances. And we thought it's the perfect application for Bitcoin. You know, Bitcoin is like cash with wings. If you can send it so efficiently and so quickly, why wouldn't people use it? And we really hacked away at that problem for a very, very long time until we realized that the infrastructure just isn't ready in Mexico to do that, which in part drove us to come to Mexico and set up that infrastructure for cashing in and cashing out. But having said that, we've actually, in the press, in CoinDesk, and everything that you read about CoinCove, we're heavily associated with remittances, but we've actually gone away from that strategically a little bit, unfortunately, because we've explored that route really thoroughly, and we realized that right now, the legal infrastructure is very unclear. So in terms of collecting cash payments in the US, that's very, very difficult. We have the infrastructure here in Mexico, but in order for us to collect payments from people, we would have to partner with institutions that have money licenses at a state-by-state level. And that's a very tricky ground in terms of Bitcoin legal grounds right now. And on top of that, it may also not be efficient in terms of the cost. So at that point, it might be a little bit difficult to fight against the big guys like Western Union, MoneyGram. But we're still very hopeful that in the near future, it will be very possible and more efficient to send money via Bitcoin for this population.
Yeah, I hope so too. And, let's make sure that everybody remembers that if you have an email address of somebody in Mexico, I can email Bitcoin to somebody from any state in the United States, right? And they can receive that. I can send a QR code to somebody by way of my computer. So I can send a spend key. I can send anything I want. I can have any kind of Bitcoin transaction I want to with anybody in Mexico or anybody anywhere in the world. And nobody else has to see that transaction. No government entity has to regulate that or can regulate that, right? It's just that when the Bitcoin gets to the other end, right, whether it's Istanbul, I just love that word. I say it too often, but
Constantinople.
Or Constantinople, or Mexico City, or, wherever, Turicato, the little town that I was in there in Michoacan, once the Bitcoin arrives there on somebody's computer or in an envelope that I mail or a Christmas package, right, they can spend it now in Mexico, right?
Yeah, and if CoinCove may have moved strategically away from trying to create a system for people to buy Bitcoin here in the States, there are already ways for people to buy Bitcoins here in the States. And CoinCove seems to be offering the solution for what to do with it if you send a remittance in Bitcoin back home to Mexico.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. And we have the infrastructure in place right now where we could even deposit directly into the bank, not bank accounts, but like the debit card accounts that we mentioned previously, where a lot of the underbanked population are using these cards. So we have that infrastructure in place. We also have the infrastructure possibly for distributing cash at these 7-Elevens or OXXO points as well as banks. So in Mexico, things are very well prepared. It's just in the US, it's very difficult. And we actually explored the route of partnering with Bitcoin ATMs in order to allow people to easily come deposit cash and get Bitcoins. And we wanted to develop a partnership where the person that was the remittance worker that was depositing the cash would never even have to deal with Bitcoin really, or have to worry about the fluctuations of the prices. It would just be an instantaneous transaction that gets converted to pesos on our end. The ATM infrastructure, unfortunately, is not very ubiquitous right now. It's not developing as fast as we had hoped it would. So that is in part why we're putting this project on a back burner.
I see.
Well, still some grand ideas that you're pursuing, and we love to hear that you're trying to figure this out and make this work on both ends.
Absolutely. And, isn't there an easy way, from any city in the United States for me to send Bitcoin to you? Tomas, can't I send Bitcoin to you right now without worrying about any regulation or anything? Couldn't I send you an email and it would have a Bitcoin address in there and you copy that address and you paste it into your wallet and you've got the Bitcoin? Can't we do that?
Yeah, I mean, it would be even easier. You could just create an account in CoinCove. We have in Coinbase if you get your money from Coinbase, but if you use an ATM or any other way of getting Bitcoins in the US, you can create an account in CoinCove in English and then just generate a payment slip, link a Mexican bank account. And so the moment you send the Bitcoins there, you can just sell them for pesos and effectively you have pesos. You can do this all from the US if you're in the US.
Right. So I can have my Bitcoins if I want to on, let's say, blockchain.info, right? And I can just send directly from my blockchain wallet or from any other wallet directly to my CoinCove wallet and then convert that into pesos through the process you already explained, right?
Exactly.
Oh, that's
And
great.
we actually have quite a few users that have bank accounts on both sides of the border or are foreigners, like maybe in Argentina or other Latin American countries that are actively inquiring about how they could transfer funds efficiently between their multiple accounts. So again, that's something that's very possible for us right now with US to Mexico. And if you're sending Bitcoins, it's even easier if you're not cashing in or cashing out on either end.
Yeah, well, this is very exciting news, guys.
I wonder if there's any regulations that are coming down the pike, if there's anything that you all worry about in terms of governmental regulations there in Mexico that could change what you all are allowed to do. Is there any talk about that or any fear of that? And I don't mean to, cast a dark shadow on it. I just think it's good to be prepared for anybody that's in the Bitcoin world because some people believe that a lot more regulations are coming.
Yes, when we came to Mexico, the Bank of Mexico and the CNBV, which is kind of the FinCEN of Mexico, they hadn't said anything. They hadn't made any announcements. So we took the preemptive strike of contacting them. And also, I know for a fact that the other Bitcoin companies are starting to pop out in Mexico. They're heavily trying to educate the Bank of Mexico. So in that sense, they were told before, not like in the US where it was like a reactive measure to what was going on. They had to do something really fast. Here, they know what we're doing. They know, they ask us how we are preventing money laundering and all that. We told them this is how we're doing it. And so we feel that we're in a better position because it's not like we corner the Bank of Mexico into hurrying up some regulations that they probably didn't think well before passing. And also, we have a lawyer here that's very good in these matters. And the way Mexican law works, you can't really just regulate that fast. It takes time. So we will have a notice where we can adapt some stuff or change some ways of how we do business. And we're confident that if regulation comes, which will come eventually, we will be prepared to tackle it because we will have the time to tackle it.
Sounds like you guys know what you're doing. And let's make sure our listeners know. Now, where are you guys from? Hana Kim? That doesn't sound like a traditional Mexican name to me.
Nope, not at all. I actually hadn't been to Mexico prior to this experience. I'm from California.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Cool.
And Tomas is actually, his home is Mexico City. So this is closer to home for him.
Nice.
For me, it's completely fish out of the water, but it's been a really great experience.
Nice. Mexico City. I'd love to see that. One of the oldest cities in the world, one of the greatest cities.
Well, that's very cool. Well, so guys, you described some of the challenges and obstacles that you were faced with here in the U.S. and with government regulation, or some of the easy ability to deal with government regulation down there. What have been some really big success moments for you guys? What was a moment where you just felt like, wow, this is really working well?
Well, I have one in mind, which is the main problem for Bitcoin companies in the US is that banks don't work with them, right? So having a bank, it's a competitive advantage, which is ridiculous. That shouldn't be a case. But in Mexico, when we came here, we told the banks what we were doing, but I think that most of them didn't really understand what we were doing. And a few weeks ago, we had an incident where someone hacked an account and sent us hacked funds from another bank account. Our account got frozen, and we talked to our lawyer, and she was, okay, there's many ways this can go down. The worst one is that they're going to tell you to close your account and never do business with them again. But the bank reacted in a way where they actually talked to us, asked us questions, and then we still bank with them. The relationship got stronger. So that was really good, because the bank knows what we're doing. They know that there's some risk, but they're still willing to work with us. And it's something in the US you can't imagine that.
Yeah, we always like to brag to. So we're from an accelerator in San Mateo, and we have other companies that were Bitcoin companies there. And we always like to brag that we have 4 bank accounts while they struggle getting 1 bank account in the US. It's just like a joke between us, but wow. It's really interesting because even one of our account executives is aware of what Bitcoin is and knows about it, but he likes to openly talk about it with us and just likes to discuss the implications of what Bitcoin can do for the financial system. And it's really great to have that kind of full disclosure relationship between the bank and us, so that we know that we're on the same page.
Yeah, this kind of sounds like an episode of It's a Wonderful Life, where, he goes in and the banker there realizes that everything's okay and he's a good guy, and he gives him a loan for his home to save his family. So it's nice you guys have, a real relationship with your bankers there.
Yeah, I mean, that has been one of the few things that have been really a beneficial thing about being in Mexico. So, for example, on the opposite side of your question, which is you asked for victories, but we've been having a lot of difficulties just setting up companies and stuff in general in Mexico, because things run very, very slowly and things are very bureaucratic. And it's funny because we compare how we were incorporated and had a business within 1 day in the US, and it took us months to get that infrastructure set up in Mexico.
Bitcoin doesn't take siestas.
Yeah, exactly.
On the other victories we've had, it's also very interesting because most of our users are new to Bitcoin. And so they come in and they ask in the chat that we have, so what is Bitcoin? What is it used for? So we've been able to really convert a lot of people into Bitcoin. Before, in December, in November, nobody knew about Bitcoins. Now you talk to older people and they've heard of it. We feel like the adoption curve is starting to take off in Mexico. And that is something very exciting.
That is exciting. Now, do you have a Bitcoin meetup group there in Mexico City, or a number of them? The population's huge there, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we actually have. There's been a lot of meetups. We've been to a couple of them in different cities, mainly there in Mexico City, Guadalajara, and Monterrey, which are the most important cities, but they're expanding to smaller cities too.
And it's actually interesting that we have a small meetup going on here in Puerto Vallarta as well. And we have actually a restaurant here in Puerto Vallarta that accepts Bitcoins for payments. So.
Oh, let's go. Let's go, Liz.
Yeah.
Thomas, I want to ask you to say Guadalajara, Monterrey one more time. That was beautiful.
That was beautiful, man.
Great and Monterrey.
That's great, man. I love it. Can you sing us a song too?
I can't do that.
We love that. We love that accent, man. That's just great.
Yeah.
Wow. Thank you. Yeah, actually, the reason why we came to Puerto Vallarta was Puerto Vallarta is one of the biggest cities in the state of Jalisco. And it turns out that Jalisco, when I left Mexico a few years ago, most of the country was not very technological, but now there's the Silicon Valley of Mexico is in this state, in Jalisco. Oh. We are in the process of getting a fund from the government that they just give money to software companies to grow and create jobs.
Wow.
So that is indirectly, the government is funding a Bitcoin company, which is also something you would not hear of in the US.
No, not at all, man. That's great. Wow, government subsidized Bitcoin.
Yep.
Well, very cool. And, to hear you talk about the population there and how Bitcoin is so new, it's a reminder to us all that the largest audience for Bitcoin doesn't know about it yet, and they're just discovering it.
Yeah, good point.
Well, guys, thank you so much for joining us here on Bitcoins and Gravy today. It's wonderful that you were able to take us to the beach like that and show us all this exciting new stuff going on down in Mexico.
Oh, yeah, we want to come visit you guys. And if we can't do that anytime soon, maybe we could talk to you guys again in a couple of months, and you guys could let us know how Coin Cove is doing.
Yeah,
sure,
definitely. We have a room open here for you guys if you guys ever want to drop in and visit. We'd love to have you.
Now, do you guys live there in Mexico now? Are you living in Puerto Vallarta?
We are. We have an office in Puerto Vallarta, and we live here as well.
So I could really come visit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you can. And hopefully by the time you come, we will have convinced some businesses to take Bitcoins. So then you will be able to spend your Bitcoins in Puerto Vallarta.
Okay, nice. Do you think
That would be amazing.
Do you think you could find me a wife? That would be really amazing.
I'm sure we could.
Okay, good.
You're
If you-
a lot of
if-
beautiful women here.
If you're sure that you can, then I'm there.
Well, in the meantime, we'll carry on our tradition here in East Nashville of having Mexican food for lunch just about every single day while we're doing the podcast.
Yeah, El Jalisciense, we do.
Yes. Well, guys, thank you so much. We look forward to speaking with you again. And let our listeners know, please, how they can find you, how they can follow you, and how they can learn more about what's going on in Mexico and Bitcoin.
All right. So our website is coincove.co. Our Twitter is the same handle. And we also have a Facebook page where we post news and updates on the Bitcoin landscape in Mexico.
Okay,
All right,
great. And do you
great.
share any beautiful pictures of the beach down there or anything?
Of course, we have pictures of the office, which is 3 blocks from the beach.
Oh, man, that just sounds so perfect. Well, hey, thanks a million, guys. We really appreciate you joining us to talk about Coin Cove.
Well, thank you guys so much for having us.
Yeah, this was very fun. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Cheers. We'll talk to you soon.
See ya.
See you. Bye.
Adios, amigos.
Adios.
Bye.
We'd like to thank our guests on today's show, Tatiana Moroz with TatianaCoin, and Hannah Kim and Thomas Alvarez of CoinCove.co. To find out more about our guests and sponsors, visit our show notes at bitcoinsandgravy.com/episode 26. Thank you so much for listening to our show. We greatly appreciate your time and attention. If you like the show, please remember to go to iTunes and leave us a review. Also, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to hear from Bitcoins and Gravy each week.
And remember the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline. Have you ever wanted to be a podcaster? Then call us at 615-208-5198 and leave us a message with your comments, questions, or complaints. This is your opportunity to tell us what you think. If you give us permission, we will put you on the show. So call the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline at 615-208-5198. That's right, that's the Bitcoins and Gravy hotline. And of course, we offer a number of ways for you to download all of our past podcasts. You can go to letstalkbitcoin.com or directly from iTunes, or you can go to our website, bitcoinsandgravy.com. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment and leave a review or comment on iTunes or SoundCloud. Let us know what you like or where we can improve.
And remember, it's your reviews and comments that help new listeners discover Bitcoins and Gravy, plus all the other great shows on the Let's Talk Bitcoin Podcast Network. And we thank you for your generous tips and donations.
I'm John Barrett.
And I'm Liz.